Hey, welcome, guys. It's been a while. We're here today. I'm with Liquid Monkey and Adam Maxwell, and we're going to be discussing about the current economic climate in the United States and globally. We're all in different parts of the world right now, so I'm going to give you perspective in the U.S. what I've seen, and we're going to let Liquid Monkey make his input, and then Adam and we'll break it down and maybe give some analysis on the situation. So starting off with Adam, how you doing?
Doing well, thanks. How are you?
Great. And Liquid Monkey, what's up, brother?
Oh, Argentina is quite a roller coaster, and we've been having the first 5 months of the first anarcho-capitalist president in history, and he's making quite the waves. So many things have happened. They say that Argentina is a country in which in 2 weeks everything changes, but in 30 years nothing changes at all. That is about to change because so many things have been happening, and I'm just thrilling, and I can't wait to tell you all. But please, Adam, it seems to be the man of the hour. So please, Adam, go ahead.
Thanks. I'm based in Eastern Europe, and Europe is going about as well as Europe goes in the 20s.
A lot of
high inflation,
a lot of people who don't like each other.
Inflation, government overreach, cost of living, corruption, and low growth, low productivity, but it's mostly trudging along.
Discontent and blaming on the others.
Yeah, I mean, there's a artificial division that's sown, left versus right, or populism versus nationalism, etc. And really, I think most of it comes down to the European Commission and just the national and international governance that's strangling this wonderful garden. But fortunately, we're seeing a rise in the jungles of the outside with the rise of BRICS and Pacific Economic Cooperation Unions, etc. And I think really the rise of BRICS is the biggest development in the global economy.
Interesting. Yeah. So like, oh, go ahead. No, I was just saying, like, I'm right now in the United States, and I've been here for a little bit. I'm in the Southeast United States in Florida, and what I've been noticing is the jobs seem to be not paying well. There hasn't been much job growth or salary increases. The cost of living has literally doubled since the bug, so to speak, and this runaway inflation, like I said, literally everything has doubled in price. And I speak of that in Florida, but it's primarily I've seen from around the country. It's also someplace it's doubled in a lot of ways. I know the real estate here especially has tripled in value since 2020 that I've seen. I've seen houses that were selling for like 150 to 200,000 in 2020 are now selling for like $400,000, and that's in a very small rural area of like Central Florida, population like 100,000, 200,000. There's very few rentals. When they pop up, they usually get rented right away. Airbnb, there's none. I can't find for short-term rentals. The real estate, I'm starting to see massive amount of houses going up for sale. So the listings keep increasing, but they seem to be sitting on the market. A lot of them have been sitting on the market for months now, and I think that's just what's to come. I looked at jobs in the area, and not that I'm necessarily looking for work, but I was just seeing what's out there, and I went to these employers that were publishing adverts on various websites, like Indeed and Yahoo and all these different job advert sites, and actually went and talked. I know a lot of the business owners in the area, and I asked the managers. I was like, hey, you guys look like you're hiring for a lot of people. Managers, assistant managers, so on and so forth. She's like, no, we're not hiring anybody. We're looking for a baker right now. This is at the local Panera and Panera Breads, and it's like a little cafe bakery chain in the United States. And she was like, no, we're looking for a baker. That's it. But yeah, so I was like, oh wow, that's interesting. So I went to other places and I was talking to the managers, and they're like, yeah, we're not looking for anybody. So come to find out, these adverts, like the corporations, like the franchise owners or the corporations, are putting fake adverts for jobs that don't exist. I don't know why I'm doing this. I saw a YouTube video today recently. I can't remember the podcaster, but they were talking about this, that it's alleged that there was, just to skew the numbers to make it look like the company was doing well. I don't know if it's because they want to increase profit, was it investors or their stakeholders or things of that nature. But the thing is these are fake job adverts, and I just hit the tip of the iceberg in this, and I'm going to start going around actually talking to people, going in person and calling on the phone and be like, hey, do you have these jobs available? What's going on? I mean, some of these are management positions. These are like GM positions and whatnot. So I think it's just fabricated. I think it's a fake economy. I think it could be that Indeed themselves or these advert companies are just putting bogus adverts on there that are old, outdated, just so it looks like they have some type of relevance. So people are using their website. That could be one thing. Or it could be that the corporations or the franchises are trying to look like they're a lot healthier economically than they really are. And beyond that, like I said, I do talk to a lot of the business owners in the area, and they also told me pretty much that business is slow to a crawl. And it's kind of like that in the summers in Florida, because a lot of our tourism's in the winter, fall, and spring, and there's a lot of people that come from up north to live here seasonally. But at the same time, they said this has been the slowest season they've seen since COVID, basically. So I don't know. That's just what I've seen so far. My perspective. I don't know if it's different where you guys are. I know you're in Argentina, Mario, and Adam, you're in Bulgaria. Is that right? Or
correct? Yeah, I live in Bulgaria, but I'm from England. I think you said the real estate prices in Florida, they have tripled in the past 4 years.
They've tripled. Like in Miami, they've quadrupled almost. But in my area, especially in Central Florida, like Polk, Orange, Highlands, they've literally tripled in price since 2014. They started going.
Oh, since 2014, so 10 years.
Yeah, and recently doubled almost. They've doubled just in the last 3 years, basically. A lot of them.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been seeing on the especially about single mothers and mainly young women who are professional, who complain that they can't make ends meet because 80% of their salary, 80% of their salary, it goes just on rent. We're talking about rents in mid-city areas, not in the center areas, in the suburban areas of the city that are ranging between $4,000, $2,000 to $4,000, where wages are about, $2,500 a month, which leaves only $500 for everything else: car payments, food, and utilities and such, and are resorting, many of them, with, although I'm not justifying it, but I can somewhat understand it, are resorting to OF, if you know what I mean.
So
that's a lot of that.
They're resorting to prostitution.
Yes, it's essentially prostitution, either online or real and in your face. Would that be the case that you've seen, Josh?
You're muted.
Josh, you're muted.
I tried to mute myself just so I didn't interrupt you guys. I'm sorry. No, what I'm seeing right now, I'm not necessarily seeing anything like that, but you understand, recently, I've been looking at, we're having all kinds of problems here in the States, and what I'm seeing mostly is the fentanyl that's being brought in from the border, the Chinese-made fentanyl. There's a new type of drug, a new synthetic that's like fentanyl but worse. It's even stronger. I don't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but that's now coming in. there's a serious drug and alcohol abuse problem. And this is usually synonymous with an economic decline. Usually when there's no jobs, people have nothing to do. They resort to depression, and they resort to drug use. And, the crime rate is seems to be going up quite a bit. The jails and the prisons seem to be starting to get overcrowded, and mostly with drug related problems. So drug and alcohol related, like DUI and drug possession, violent crime as a result of drug possession, theft, and burglary as a result of gang drugs. And I know, like, the Central Florida area is notorious for methamphetamine.
I've heard some
use.
I've seen some footage on the I don't know, Skid Row in the United States is rampant with, I'm talking about shantytown, a whole shantytown with thousands of people in tents, in makeshift tents, resorting to drug abuse, like needles in the street, and people taking on fentanyl and looking like zombies. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, it's not that bad, I would say, down here in Central Florida as much. That's more of like a Kensington, which is in Philadelphia. Kinston Avenue is it's like zombies. I'll bring it up here in a minute if I can find it. Anyway, so Kensington, Skid Row is synonymous in, like, downtown LA. That's what they refer to as Skid Row. It's been a tent city for the longest, like a decade or more. And yeah, it's rife with, like, drug use and crime and poverty. And like I said, that's California, Southern California. Southern California, like, has its own problems with homelessness. There's a YouTube follower that I follow from time to time that he does cover a lot of the stuff. But yeah, the biggest concern right now, like I said, is when unemployment skyrockets, and especially with the cost for housing, you're going to see a lot of homelessness, and you're going to see a lot of drug use and a lot of economic repercussions as a result of that. And it is what it is. It's like I said, whenever you have depressions or you have economic, recessions, drug use, alcoholism, prostitution usually are synonymously going up, as well as gambling. And we see this in Florida. They just passed a law to allow online gambling with the casinos, the Seminole casinos. So that is obviously going to contribute to further economic decline and cultural decline, I think.
I agree that the addiction and abuse is a form of escapism. What I'm going to put forth is that these conditions are not just serendipitously they've come about, just that this is the world we're living in. I think it's all part of their design and plan to crush your spirits, destroy your finances, and plunder your wealth and property. This is also why they invite all the illegals. I couldn't hear you too much there. But this is... Mm-hmm.
The idea is what? Take away your will to live and your will to thrive. The willpower. Take it away.
It's take away your will, but also take away your means, right? You will own nothing to be happy. You can't own your own house. They want you to own your own cars. And they want everyone to not own gas vehicles, petrol vehicles, not because they want everyone to drive EVs. It's impossible for everyone to drive EVs, but they want to price us out of being able to drive. So in the UK, in London, they've got this ULEZ zone where it's costing like $15 a day if you want to drive your car. And I hear they're looking at implementing, like, every mile you drive, it's going to charge you additional taxes just to drive into the city centre. And it's specifically to price out the poors, get them to be forced to sell their cars and properties so that they own nothing and be happy. And then they also have, not only that, they're implementing really low speed limits, 20 miles per hour, so that it's quicker to cycle, so that you don't have cars, you don't have the means to be free. Again, this is also why they invite all the illegals and give them the hotels and free benefits, while the natives and veterans are sleeping on the street.
What's the logic of that? Just tell me about this. What's your opinion about the logic? Because I'm failing to understand that concept. I understand there's something perverse and horrid about it, but can you please elaborate on that so I can have a better picture?
Yeah, there's two ways to think about it. The first is, what's their plan? And the second way is, what's their intention. So if we start on the intention, do you believe that your government are the good guys, and or that they have your best interests at heart? If so, you're an idiot.
All right.
So I don't think that. I don't think you do either. It's not. They're not governing you for your benefit. It's for their benefit. They want to steal your money and enrich themselves at your expense.
Right.
So you can say that this is the purpose. This is their government. This is what socialism is, or corporatism is. Then the other thing you can say is that maybe it's humiliation. That you are not governed by your people. That they really do hate you, the natives. They want to destroy you, and you say why, and then you go to their plan. And their plan, which they were very vocal about throughout 2020, this great reset, you will own nothing and be happy. That is a nice slogan, but that's genuinely what they believe. They don't want you to own things. They don't believe in the Constitution of the United States. They don't believe in the rule of law. They believe in they believe in a rules-based international order, which is whatever they say, whatever they want, whenever. I call it the fiat abuse of power. And we're seeing this fiat abuse of power. And you say, why? Well, I don't understand this. This has all come about. Prices are going up, cost of living's going up, with everyone struggling more. It's not by accident. We knew this 50 years ago with Milton Friedman. Inflation always is a monetary phenomena. They printed so much money these past 5 years, which is known as fiat proliferation of the currency, that your buying power has gone down, and all of this has. So this is the primary vector by which they're doing it. It's the monetary lever. Then they got the fiscal lever. They've got the money laundering lever. They want to send another $100 billion to Ukraine. I can talk about it in a bit. The plan they've got to send for the next decade of long-term Ukrainian support, plus to steal the Russian frozen reserves without any lawful precedent. This is what they're about. The government. They want to harm you. They want to control you. They want to pacify you. They want to destroy your way of life. They are threatening your lives. Maybe not today with a gun in your face. It's slow, gradual, patient, but so evil, malevolent, and there's nothing you can do peacefully to prevent it. You got to actively resist it through increasing independence. So one of the things you were saying is that people in the cities they have to spend all their money on rent. Why do you live in the city? Move out the city. Cities are not the place to be. I live in a city. I live in the suburbs of a city. I'd like to move out. I currently can't afford it.
Do you make your money in first world circuits? Like, you can be a digital nomad, but do you work for England or United States company and you get your dollars, or you work in the local currency?
I don't have any income.
I mean, the thing is, like you mentioned, Adam, about living in rural areas. What we see on the screen now, this is photos of, or this is a video of Kensington, Philadelphia. It's a major street in the city of Philadelphia, and you can see the homelessness, and you can see this looks like a possible streetwalker. And the drug use is prevalent. I mean, there's other videos where they're looking like literally zombies, due to the fentanyl use. But yeah, as you said with the rural areas, I'm in kind of a rural area of Central Florida, and like I said, the rents here are between $850 to $1,200 a month for a 1 to 2 bedroom, and that market rate is very similar to the city of Tampa and other major metropolitan areas in the in the state of Florida. So I mean, it is what it is. I mean, this is a systemic collapse of economy. You have runaway inflation. You have overspending from the governments, state and federal. And there's no the Fed chair could come up and say, well, yeah, inflation's at 3%, and we're literally like, we're tackling that down to 1%, and we're not going to increase interest rates, and everything's merry, everything's great. Jobs reports are awesome. Well, no, the job reports aren't great because as I pointed out, a lot of these job adverts that I've been looking at, they're fake job adverts. They don't exist. They're jobs that are being advertised that do not exist. And most importantly, the professional jobs don't exist. I'm hearing from people in the tech industry today, one of the members in our main Telegram group telling me that they're starting to do massive layoffs in the tech industry. And he's one of the people that works in tech. We have another person on the channel that is he works in communications, and he's having some difficulty with finding work right now. So I mean, like, it is what it is. The economy is not doing well, and the ramifications of how is this going to affect the global economy, because America's in the Western economies are consumer based driven, and they buy products that are made and manufactured in foreign countries like China, Southeast Asia, Mexico, and India, and other parts of Europe.
There's this urban legend that I heard sometime that I read on the TikTok or the Reddit urban legends, subreddit, that says something like this: that actually all you see, all the job openings that are in the websites of working, and are just fake, because the government pays them or reduces their tax level on companies that actually advertise job openings, but they are not. They's just masking. I mean, you're not gonna get hired because that job opening does not exist. It's just a ruse that the government plays on the people to give the illusion of prosperity. But if you go and get and look for a job and hunt for a job, 90% of the times you don't get the job. It's not about bad luck. It's because those jobs, what they take you the interview for, and they call you back, but they'll never get it. That doesn't exist. It's just a ploy that the government plays with other companies, so they can for the government gives the illusion of prosperity, and the companies who are into that, they get tax breaks. That's an urban legend that I heard that I actually believe is true.
I've experienced that myself. I don't know, Adam, have you? You're from the UK originally, right? Like, what's going on in the UK?
So productivity is stagnant, wages are stagnant, cost of living is increasing. Many people weren't able to afford to heat their home last winter. They put more layers on. And this is something that I was used to growing up. We wouldn't heat the home that much. We'd put on layers, but a lot of people didn't have much heating on, or if at all. There were campaigns to buy these jackets that have a heating element in them. I would see people say, "Yeah, I bought one. It was really good because I can't afford to heat my home. I'd rather heat my body." And that's the state of the UK. For the first time ever, the standard of life in Russia may soon exceed Western Europe. Just
I get a
going
question
back
for
to
you.
going back to one thing that Josh said moments ago. He said that this is a systemic consequence of the economy. I disagree. I think it's systematic. The difference is that systemic means arising as a result of the system. It's real, but it may not necessarily be intentional. Systematic means it's a result of the system's design, meaning it's on purpose, it's deliberate. So I think this is all due to this fiat abuse of power, fiat proliferation. They want to hurt you. Go ahead.
I mean, yeah, like you said, but systematically though, isn't the system designed to keep the rich rich and the poor poor? Isn't that the system that we live in?
Yeah, but that's by design. It's not like, we're going to have a meritocracy, and because of a meritocracy, the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. But it's fair because you're putting in what you're putting in, and there's no, we don't have free market capitalism, meritocracy. We have corporatism, we have government intervention, we have all these distortions. I'm saying that most of, one question is, if the government prints its own money, why is it going into debt and financing those debts? Why can't they just print more money? Well, the US government doesn't own their money supply. It's owned by the Federal Reserve, notes. And it's designed to benefit the donors, benefit the military industrial complex, benefit the politicians, the US oligarchs, not the people. Our elected representatives are looking out for my interests. No, they're not. You vote them in, you consent to them seizing power. Now they're in power. They exploit that for their benefits. They enrich themselves and systematically plunder your wealth. All of government is a grift. That's just all of government's a grift. And so it's by the design of the system is to benefit themselves at your expense. And this is a pattern that's played out constantly throughout history. It's why empires fall, because the government gets too powerful and falls into this grift with the deep state where they are enriching themselves at your expense, and you end up, and eventually it comes to a breaking point, and that it's a collapse or a revolution.
I got a question for Adam. How in the world was Sadiq Khan re-elected for third time in London as a London mayor? Your green says more than what you're about to say.
I've never met a single English person who likes Sadiq Khan. Sadiq Khan was re-elected for the mayorship of London, the capital city of the UK. How can these both be true? Because London is no longer an English city. So after decades of demographic subversion, you've now got to the point where there's more people living in London than in the country that I'm currently living in. I remember when I was living in London, you go on the metro, on the tube, it was so rare for you to hear English being spoken. And if you see someone speaking English, like, oh, hey, loads of different languages. With Sadiq Khan, he's got a wide base of West Asians, we'll say, and Muslim individuals. And one of the grifts of these Labour left-wing governments is that they promise more benefits and more housing for the people they want to bring in. They get the voting base. Now, I don't actually think that in the UK, I don't care about left versus right. Labour are terrible. Conservatives are terrible. They're not worse than the other. They're both just terrible. And the political system is designed in such a manner that there's no way to stop it, because you've got this first past the post system of parties, which means that no individual can ever come in, gain sufficient power to challenge the status quo, and you just have a far more entrenched deep state than you have in the USA as a design of the system. So I think they're all both terrible and shit. And with the UK, I do think that the only solution there is a mass violent revolution where we should all print 3D guns. But that's not, I'm not saying that should happen. I'm saying that's the only thing that can happen to fix the situation in the UK.
Wow. So
it's
eventually, it's essentially a failed state, and it's prompt to become a civil war. Speaking about civil war,
no, I don't. I say that's the solution. I think that British people are too docile, too brainwashed, I'll talk to some British people and they'll say, "Oh, we don't like the government." I'm like, "Yeah, but you like the state, you like the policies, you like you're getting mad at me for criticizing the state of affairs, the policies, the culture, the actions, both historically and presently. You're getting so defensive over the government narrative that you can't question." And it's a cultural thing. I think all the best English people have left, and if they haven't left, there's certainly thousands of great English people remaining. I encourage them to leave, because I don't think there's any fixing this, and I don't believe that there is a primacy for civil war in the UK. I'm saying that the only solution there is collapse, failure, and it's not next year, it's not in 2 weeks, I'm talking in the future. I don't see a future that's good for England, so I've left and I'm never going back.
what seems to be the situation regarding civil war in the United States, Josh?
I mean, the thing is like, I was predicting, like I said earlier in the channel, like the podcast, that we were going to see a recession in the summer, and we're starting to see those ripples, and that's starting to, expire now. But as far as a civil unrest or civil war, I don't think that's going to happen until we hit rock bottom, economically speaking. Until, like I said, when people are starving in the streets and they can't afford food, and there's political turmoil and the system, or the society rather, and there's huge divisions. I think we're close, but we're not there yet. But there is potential that it could happen, and I wouldn't necessarily say it's a political civil war, but between Trumpers or MAGA people and progressives, because now we're starting to see, with the conflict in the Middle East with Israel and Palestine, that the Democratic Party is starting to see a split, much like you saw in 2016 with the megas and the rhinos, the traditional Republicans, and even libertarians to an extent. So there's a lot of multifaceted issues that are going on. So it's more complex than just if there's going to be a civil war. I think there's more to it than that.
I'm reading that the Eurozone as a collective was officially in a recession over the winter, and perhaps it's still ongoing. The UK is in a recession, and I'm sure if you don't play with the official statistics, if you're playing with the real statistics, the shadow statistics, perhaps lots more places are in worse recessions than they're letting on. I think that when we're talking about civil wars, these are things that don't happen overnight. They have to build up. Like you'll see a sequence of events that leads up to it. Like if Texas was genuinely, the government of Texas was genuinely at odds with the government of the federal United States of America, and things escalated to military fighting between them, which wouldn't happen. The Eagles Pass, they were like, we're going to lock this down, and a mile down the road, letting all the letting everyone in, not Mexicans, not Colombians, not Haitian, everyone, Chinese, Russians, all flooding through the border in the south. So I think that while it's important to talk about the potential for civil war and how things can deteriorate, I don't think that it's like I'm getting squeezed, let's go. I think there needs to be a whole cultural perception that all the struggles we're going through, the worsening in living standards, the money laundering, the corruption, it needs to be a mass perception. This is all a result of the government and a deliberate policy, a great reset, coordinated by the elites, by the WEF, by the politicians and by their sponsors, by the corporation, by this crony capitalism, corporatism. It's not free market, it's more socialism. One thing Josh mentioned earlier is that we're shipping the jobs away to China, for example, and Mexico. And Janet Yellen recently went to China, and they said, "Can you stop doing capitalism better than us? Can you be a bit more competitive for us, less competitive?" And China said no. And we've had Olaf Scholz go over to China recently, begging on his knees, can you help us out? And they got laughed at. I think he was met at the airport by a deputy mayor, not by a premier, not by Xi Jinping, by a deputy mayor, because they know he's coming here to beg. So we've got the communist Chinese Communist Party who are doing capitalism better than we in the West, because as awful as totalitarian, authoritarian, overreaching, tyrannical, dictatorial as the Chinese Communist Party may be, they're not running their economy and their country as awful as the government we have here. And that's we can talk. You know, there may be exceptions. You can say, well, my mayor in here. You can say I like Ron DeSantis. You can say I like Slovakia, the new government here. I'm not talking about one. I'm saying as a collective, the West as a hegemonic power, we've absolutely squandered our lead the past 30 years. Laundering money, forever wars, everything that Julian Assange is still locked up for revealing. It's all absolutely relevant, prevalent to this day.
Wow.
Good points.
I'm speechless. Eventually, what do you think is going to happen? I mean, I've seen this movie, or there's this movie about Civil War that is coming in by this huge network called A24. And I understanding that life imitates art. How long until this becomes true? That is actually going to be an actual civil war, since I understand the tensions between the state of Texas and the federal government has never abated. They've been in an impasse. But it's like the people from Texas who remain themselves as Texans. Remember, the Texan does not consider himself any more American than he considers himself Texan.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the movie that you're talking about, I just popped it up on the screen. But yeah, Texas. When you enter the state of Texas, there are signs on there that say, "Don't mess with Texas," and they're big, and it says, "Welcome to Texas. Don't mess with Texas." So they have their own kind of spirit, and they're considered they were a Republic of Texas at one time before they became a state in the Union, and they still hold true to that. I mean, they literally have their own. They have their own military, like state military, and DeSantis in Florida actually recently passed a bill to enact our state military, our state militia, which is protected under the Constitution. And Texas has its own. They have their own state guard and state air force. And I believe they have a navy too, but I'm not sure on that one. But literally, Texas's power grid is separate. Like it's its own separate power grid.
And this separate power grid, this autarkic potential, self-reliance, lack of dependence is what is so threatening to the regime, and it's one of these primal factors that they hate about Russia. Is we're going to sanction Russia. They say we don't need you. We're going to pivot east. We're going to sanction your oil. Okay, well, there was this stream when the war began of this Russian person on Twitch just burning all his gas stove hobs 24/7 until the stream got taken off, and it said it cost them like $1 a month. Whereas in the USA, with the politicians say we want to ban gas stoves. I don't know what happened about that, but it's just a completely different reality. In Russia, and I talked about China seemingly doing capitalism better than us. Ironic. We look at this gas station masquerading as a country, as what Russia was sold to us in 2022, and you look at the nationalism of the ethnic minorities. There's 109, there's well over 100, somewhere between 100 and 200 ethnic identities in Russia, and they have two words for it. They have like Ruski Russians, these Russian Russians, and they have maybe Cossack Russians. But my understanding, and this stems from the past 100 years of Soviet dominance, but also the past 30 years of this Federation of Russia. They say I am a Cossack Russian, and that Russian element, nationalism, comes out first and foremost in most identities, except maybe the some say the white people. Whereas in the USA, you don't have that unified understanding of nationhood, of strength. Right? Unity is our strength. In the West, in America, we've got diversity as our strength. So they say I am an Asian American, I am an African American. The emphasis is not on the American and on the values of American. It's on this splintered identity, divide and rule. And that lack of unity means that there is a lack of autarky, of self-reliance. Mm-hmm.
cohesiveness is the word you're looking for.
Cohesion, sure, yeah, all of this, and like we can say it seems like such a blunder. Why would they want to sow division, discord, and incohesion? And you say, well, let's not assume that the government of Washington, of London, of Brussels, of Paris, of Berlin, let's not assume these are the good guys, because they're not. And if you think they're the good guys, you need to go back and study actual history, not propaganda. And once you realize they're not looking out for your interests, they are actively trying to harm you. And the best way to do that is divide and conquer, and to have these, because if you're fighting over stupid things, over left and right, over identity politics, over who knows what, where the police don't come out to stop BLM burning down the cities, but they crack a professor's head open because she tries to intervene, the student saying we don't like the Israeli genocide. It means you're not focusing your energy, bettering yourself, and looking at the real enemy, the politicians in the swamps.
Something that I've noticed that I just got information into was that it's mandatory for high school students in Russia. It's in the Russian curriculum, in the Russian educative curriculum, that they have to read the Gulag Archipelago and Dostoevsky's work. This is mandatory. That makes the psyche of the average Russian who has finished high school somewhat, and this comes from my deepest admiration, invincible. I mean, you're not going to beat Russian. You're never going to beat Russia in war if every Russian is willing to fight its existence and its values, being bred those values that are in that literature. And that, I mean, if you put this gay literature in the American curriculum for how do you call it, elementary and grammar school,
subversion,
yeah, and essentially what you're going to have is a demoralized soldier who works for the money and who's always complaining about the lacking of the things that he doesn't have. So he needs support, which, I mean, so far the American military might is unbeatable, yes, because it relies on so many factors being put together that the soldier needs to have air support, naval support, communications, all these things that cost a lot of money. But the Russian is only armed with his wits. He may have support from time to time, but he knows he can't rely on it. Whereas the American counterpart, he counts on it every time, and when he doesn't have it, he can't rely on it, and he ducks himself in, and he waits out for the support to arrive. That's how I understand it works. If anybody who is listening to me is in the military and wishes to correct me, please do so.
So I'm not in the military, but I spend quite a bit of time studying like open source intelligence, and I don't exactly agree. What conflict has the United States won since World War II?
All right.
Since World War II?
Let's just say
zero.
Since World War II.
Zero.
Maybe one or two little things like Desert Storm. That was quite good, but that's
Desert Storm was actually not a win. They didn't win anything. All they did was they pushed Iraq out of Kuwait. That's it. It wasn't a win.
Well, I think as an operation, as a military operation, one could say it's a win. Anyway, so they spent decades trying to kill Afghani wedding parties, whereas Russia has spent at least a decade preparing for this war. I mean, arguably this war began 1 decade ago, the 2nd of May 2014, and that's really where things kind of turned around, and Russia got very serious, gearing up for this while trying to sue for peace. Anyway, I think the Russian military is the world leader. I think they are years ahead of hypersonic missile capacities in the United States. They have different generation.
They're fifth generation airplanes.
Mm-hmm. Airplanes are amazing, air defense amazing, missiles are amazing. Their men have the combat experience, as you say. With Ukraine, most of the men are motivated to fight. They recognize the necessity of this, and they have to get it done. Whereas in America, they're struggling to. For years, they've been struggling to fill their recruitment goals, because why would you want to fight? Not for America. You're not fighting for America. There's no existential threat, aggression against America. You'd be fighting as a tool for the regime for some ideological purpose overseas, which you've instigated, which the government of Washington has instigated over decades of subversion, especially since the unipolar moment of the fall of the Soviet Union. So the past 30 years, America's been meddling, and you have to go off and die for that. I'm not going to fight for that. I say often, if there was a war with the UK, I would like to fight against the country, because I find that the government is so evil, and it would, I'd be on the side of the enemy of them. Anyway, you say Russians have can't count on air support. They just have their wits. The Russian army is very well equipped. Their drone warfare is amazing. Russia's always been a land-based army, whereas the USA has been traditionally naval-based. But they don't have the logistical capacity they once had in Europe. Whereas Russia, they have their weapons depots closer to the front lines, where they're able to go and repair the equipment, turn it around, get it back onto the front lines. They've got 3D printers right there in the trenches, where they're able to make any adjustments to the drones that they want. They have amazing drones. They have logistical supply chains. They've got artillery. They've got a functional military industrial complex that's partly state-owned, that's working for the national interest, not for money, for Raytheon, Boeing, Airbus, etc., for just to extract as much money as they can from the American tax base. That America still can't get 1 million artillery shells together, and they can't. They at the moment, we were talking before the show about the shifting narrative against Russia and towards China as the main geopolitical rival of the United States. But I don't think that the USA is is able to wage a war. They can't even beat the Houthi. And so you say the American military might is unbeatable. If someone were to attack America, America could defend itself. But I believe the same thing is true in China. If America wants to attack China via Taiwan, logistically, you send a few missiles. I'm not sure if this naval, if the tactics, the strategies of the 20th century apply in the 21st century with hypersonic missiles and drone swarms. And I don't see the USA having that military industrial capacity. I don't see them having the morale. I don't see them having it's a fundamentally disorganized society. So how can you put up when you're telling everyone diversity is our strength, how can you build this unified front when everyone's saying the US government is sponsoring genocides, murdering people entirely unjustified? We don't support this, and the government is awful. Just to finish this rant, some people, it's not every Russian that supports the government and wants to go fight. There are some very anti-government Russians. Some people I find irrationally so, but I understand the points. Like, I have this one Russian friend who, with the Crocus attack, he says, that day, he says, this is a false flag from Putin. I say, I don't think so. It looks more like a Western intelligence operation, false flag, than a false flag. And he's like, no, I know it's Putin. I said, I'm going to wait and see what the intelligence says. And over, I have an initial perception, but I'm going to wait and see. And I believe the evidence has shown, so the West, London and Washington primarily, perhaps utilizing the proxy of ISIS-K from Kazakhstan to enact this. But I don't think it's Putin government doesn't make sense, and the intelligence just isn't there. So it's not every Russian that wants to fight and die. I know Russians that don't want to go and register themselves for the draft. on the off chance. So it's not. There's problems everywhere. But my belief, my conviction is that the problems in Russia are surmountable, and in USA, in the West, in the Western West, they're struggling because it's systematic and it's deliberate. It's a deliberate policy.
Oh, there's Jim Jones.
Yeah, I mean, we have Jim Jones here with us. He's going to comment when he gets a chance. But yeah, Mario, you got something to say?
Yeah, I was just going to add that. How come? I was going to ask Alan. How come do you think the war started 10 years ago on the sometimes around 2014? Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, the 2nd of May 2014 was when it's called the Odessa fire incident. It's where, so I think 2014. So it's after the Color Revolution. They rounded up Russian speakers into the trade union building, set it on fire, and the regime says to the firefighters, don't put it out. And I think over 50 Russians, just for speaking Russian, being Russian and not supporting this Ukrainian coup, burnt to death in the trade union building. Some jumped out the way. It was terrible. That was really the start of the war.
Right. Wow. Anyway, since I'm to be in the spot, I guess it's my turn to talk about Argentina. Things about Argentina. In the fifth month that Javier Milei has been in power, a lot of things have happened. First of all, the populist, I mean, he started with an audit of the state. I mean, where does the money go? And boy, believe you me, he found some interesting surprises. Now, the populists always say that they get the money to help the downtrodden, the poor, because they're so good. What he found out is that all the money that goes essentially goes back to the supporters of the regime, of the Peronist populist regime. For instance, you got the INCA, the National Institute of Cinema and Visual Arts. That eventually what was made was because they needed they needed money to do demonstrations and to show force to the people in order to ask for money. What they did was they would say they financed a movie that was never made, and that money was taken to pay supporters in the field, to pay them for meals, to pay them for transportation, and to pay them for drugs as well, so they could be motivated to go. And they, for example, they create comedores, which means places where people could go and eat for free, places where poor people could go and eat for free. Essentially, those comedores, those dining places, did not exist, and they send money and food to those places, and the people in charge of those places would get the food, get the money, and resell it on market price, pocketing the money, and then paying a fee to those people who organize it, so they could just keep going on their business. Of course, this created a massive backlash, and eventually Javier Milei's popularity started growing away. He has around a 57% of a positive image. And of course, there is economically, we are not in the best position because there is an inflation, and there is many issues that need to be, because there's many ticking bombs that the living administration, last administration, left in the situation in the present, so it could just explode on his face. Eventually, what he's doing is he's just starting them out so they don't eventually create mayhem. So that's essentially what he's doing the most in these 5 years. And essentially also he opened the importation for competition, because there was many how do you call it? Crony capitalism, closed markets in which people could just put the prices they wanted. So eventually he opened the markets so to be free competition, and eventually some prices of food have fallen up to 75%. 75% because he opened the importation of foods. I mean, we are a food producing nation, yes, but the food that is being produced is produced by a very small number of huge meat or food consortium with food. When many companies get together, well, they set up on a price. What is called in English?
Cartel.
Cartel. Yeah.
Yes, the cartelization of many prices, and of course that he opened the importation of many products. And of course, I say, how can you do this when we are a food producing nation? It says because you are corrupt and dishonest. So essentially, what he's doing is he's putting in a mirror to all the iniquities of many of the Argentine actors. And of course, this is gathering his popularity. His popularity hasn't waned in the 5 months and all the measures he's taken. Yes, we are not good economically speaking. I mean, prices are high for wages, but he's opening competition in the true capitalist market sense. Like he's actually doing it, and he's putting his money where his mouth is. I got tired of talking. Somebody else pick up the.
You mentioned that inflation exists, and
yes.
And this is a result of the previous regime and also previous decades of this corruption, this socialism in Argentina. So I'm just curious, like, has since Milei has come in, have these acute problems gotten better or worse for the average person? Because there's this transition from socialism and government spending, you got to cut it, and you got to you got to cut it out, and that's going to have some teething pains and problems. So I'm curious how that feels on the ground.
Well, the thing is that the populists, they hold much political power, but they don't have popularity. I mean, they are being hated and despised and loathed by the great majority of the people. Somebody says hello. And he's despised they are despised by many, by a large portion of the people. God damn it! Hold on a moment. I'm just talking. Just hold on. Damn it. Hold on a moment. I got to do something. Little tyrant needs to give me the attention. Anyway, where was I? Oh yeah. The Peonists, they staged a massive demonstration. But eventually, this increased Milei's popularity because they got exposed on how greedy they are, because they organized that demonstration on dishonest basis. So they show the true colors, and this gathered more popularity. So essentially, if you're talking about economically, things are difficult, but people are hopeful, because inflation from being 40% a month it went to 27. To 21 to 14, and this month was just 11. So yeah, we have an 11% inflation, but comparing it to 4 months ago that it was 40%, it's quite an advance. I mean, it all depends on comparison where you were. And they say that next month is going to be 6%. And if it's going to be 6%, then it's a win situation, because when we as Argentines we are being used to work and live on a 40% inflation, or a 25% monthly at least, and living with a 6% inflation is blessing. See my point?
And that's a monthly inflation.
That's monthly inflation.
Because here we're used to talking about annual inflation, and they say it's like 2% annual inflation, 5% annual inflation. And
you are so cute.
Yeah, it's.
You get used to it. I mean, once you get used to the rules of the game, you adapt to the rules of the game. And we have been adapting to the rules of the game. And 40% last year, the last 2 years, 40% was just business as usual. And now 6% is like, wow, there is a lot of things to be done. That's
Do
not an
the
opportunity.
wages, if the price is going up 40% in a month, does the wages, how does that correlate?
Well, of course they do. They do correlate, because if they don't, you get people being murdered in the streets. I mean, the one thing that the populists that understand, they're not stupid. I mean, they say fear is smart. Fear makes you smart. You can be corrupt, but you cannot be stupid in the sense that to be allowed yourself to be shivved in the streets by some people you don't know because you took too much money. The populace here in this country understand it, so they always print money, but they print money and they just give it away.
Yeah, and then Millei's come in. I don't know if he's still printing money. Government.
Yeah,
I know he's cut loads of government out, and that will have a less inflationary effect on the economy, and that's brought the inflation down. And then you're saying he's then come through with supply side policies, opening the markets, enabling more importation.
No. The thing is that what is most refreshing regarding Millei's policies is that he's honest and upfront. He puts all the numbers on display so everyone will see them. He's not taking any money. He's not doing anything that we wouldn't. He's doing everything he promised to do in the way that he promised it to do. Like, that man is going to sleep every night, and he sleeps. He hasn't betrayed anyone, and that is just awesome. If I have to tell you, I'm really happy because we are used to be politicians being crook bastards, and he's not. At least he's not. He may fuck up
thing I
sometime.
like about Milei is his background, right? He was an economist, academic who's like, I know the theory, and my understanding is he's felt obligated to run for the office and implement those.
Yeah.
And he's compromised. I think he has compromised some on what he's promised to do, just the reality of the situation. For example, you can't be an anarcho-capitalist president. But you can be a president implementing as many ANCAP policies as you can. Yeah. So there's some compromise, but I think so long as you say, he's doing everything honestly, or he's presenting.
If I have to say, the most important contribution that Milei has done so far did not have to do with his current administration, but in the past. He started educating Argentines while going to TV shows and being in panels in TV programs and being in the theaters, of educating people on what a liberal, I mean, in the true sense of a liberal capitalist means to be. When I say liberal, I'm not referring to these left-wing retards who in the United States are out of touch of reality. I'm talking about Adam Smith liberals laissez-faire market. So let's make that distinction. He expressed how being a liberal is best to submit to the populist lies. Eventually, the populists saw themselves now in a quicksand, because whatever they do, since they obey to their own paradigm, they haven't realized yet that the paradigm has changed. The general paradigm has changed. I mean, the way of thinking of the people is that we don't want now to be held by the state. We want now to be free so we can make our own money and being able to help those we want to help. Instead of, I mean, I want to help myself and then be given the choice of help others if I so choose so. Instead of, please help, please get the state to help me because I am poor little me and I'm helpless. And the how do you say, the fishing bait that the populist governments are always been trying to hook the people on by using fishing analogies, is no longer desirable by the great majority of the population. So they see themselves, they feel like this wind-up toys spinning around without any and making a fool of themselves. That's what's been happening with the penalist populist people who were so popular back in before. Because the thing is that every single institution that the populists touched, they made something dishonest and crooked about it. And the people are just, the majority of people, me, myself, are fed up with it. And they say, thank God Milei has come. Thank God, because no one from Milei's staff is a professional politician. I mean, they're all newcomers. And they're doing what they promised to be done. Then that is simply great. And I just got tired of talking. I need to take a break. Thank you so much. I'll be back in 5 minutes.
I think that paradigm shift is one of the most important things. I think I like that you highlighted that's like the blessing of Milei. The most important thing he's done was before he was elected, which is to go round using the media and spread this message of self-reliance away from the state to that laissez-faire, leave it alone, let the market be. It's the government distortions and most of the problems of corporatism and crony capitalism. A lot of the problems in the USA, people say, "Oh, the USA is capitalist and look at all these problems." I just say, "Well, tell me one industry in the USA that's not regulated that you need a license for. You can't even have a lemonade stand." Lemonade stand in the street without a police being called. You need a license for a lemonade stand. So I think it's this. I think before any revolution, any paradigm shift, you need to have that grassroots movement, paradigm shift, education that you are being oppressed, indoctrinated, and persecuted by the status quo. This is how we fix it, and then you come in with the political change or revolutionary change, Millet, for example. And so when we were talking earlier about the potential for civil war, I think that a civil war wouldn't achieve anything without this paradigm shift. I think it's the paradigm shift that's the most important.
I am just so happy. I mean, just take a look at that. Out. All this over. Out. Department of Women, just out. Department of Public Works, out. Just take a look at that.
Oh, wow.
There he goes. ANCAP superhero.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the guy's a showman. I mean, the guy's a showman. But eventually, all those things he did was putting knowledge and wisdom in the people by telling them you can rely on yourself. You need nobody. You just get the state out of you. And the people are happy about it because he's following through. Yeah, the chainsaw. The chainsaw. I just love that. I'm sorry, I just got myself carried away. He's a Chad.
I don't know if it's something you're able to talk about or if you want to. My one big question about Millet is I understand the necessity of introducing the US dollar as a counterweight to the inflation of the peso.
Yes.
It's one thing that's not ANCAP. He moved away from BRICS and has gone towards the US dollar. It's the one thing that's inconsistent, that he's moved away from BRICS. So I'm attaching to the dollar, and he seems to have a very unique foreign policy outside the laissez-faire economics of things. Curious what you think about that.
Explain that. The thing is that what he wants to do is to remove the should he be able to should he was out of government without fulfilling all what he promised, he wants to at least take away the politician power to print money and create inflation. That's what he vows to do. That's the idea of putting the dollar as an official currency in Argentina. Like saying, I mean, if politicians want to remove the US dollar as a currency, if they deem so, it's because they just want to print more money so they can make you poorer. Because in reality, Argentina, you know who are the people who hold most US dollars in the world besides the Americans? The Argentines. because the Argentines understand that the reserve of valor, the reserve of wealth, is the U.S. dollar. As much as inflation as it could be, as they have, it still is a reserve currency. And all the contracts that are of worth in the United States, like if you want to buy a house in Argentina, you use dollars. You don't use pesos. If you want to buy, I don't know, a school, a university fee, year fee for your son, you don't use pesos, you use dollars. All important transactions are held in US dollars. So it says, if you buy a coffee in Buenos Aires and you have dollars, they will take your dollars. I mean, they will take your pesos because they have to. But the thing is that if the US dollar is so embedded in Argentinians' real everyday economy, that why don't we just ditch the peso anyway? Because it's a worthless currency. You go outside in the world and you try to pay with pesos, they will laugh at you in the face. So eventually, what do? You bring dollars or you bring euros. That's what it is. And he wants to, but the main idea is to remove the power of the career politicians to take wealth away from you. That's essentially the promise that he made to the Argentines. And Argentines are actually following through, because every Argentine that I have dollars as a reserve currency. My mother has dollars as a reserve currency. So yeah, it is what it is, just like Josh said.
Great, thank you. It helps a lot.
I need to take a break. I'll be back in a while.
All right, so we have Anthony from New York City. He's a member of the Telegram channel. The link's in the description if you guys want new followers that we have. You can go there. So if Anthony, if you want to say hello and say something in the chat, let me know.
Yeah, how you guys doing? It's been a little while since we had a live stream. Can everyone hear me well?
Yes, we can, Anthony. How are you?
I'm good. How you doing, Liquid Monkey? It's good to hear from you, man.
I am hopeful because of the administrations I've been telling, and I've been as hopeful as I can be, considering the last time, which we had a different administration. So yes, but I've talked too much already, and I'm tired. Please go ahead and speak your mind.
Yeah, like I said to Josh, economics is not my forte, it's not my strong suit, to be honest. But if you guys have any questions regarding like the economy in New York City, like I guess how it is for everyday Americans to live in New York City, I can answer those questions happily.
Yeah, so I was looking at. Well, I mean, sorry to cut you off, Liquid Monkey. The reason why I did today's chat is because the Fed came out with the new rate hikes or whatever that they were going to possibly do, or lower rates or whatever, and they were talking about all these great things and about the inflation at 3%, and we're going to keep the interest rates where they are because everything looks okay and everything's so excellent. Sundays and lollipops, everybody. So I just wanted to kind of give a perspective, a global perspective, and a United States perspective of what's truly going on from Main Street. We're represent Main Street. We're Americans. We're global, citizens, and I gave my input at the very beginning of the podcast, about what I seen here locally in the state of Florida, which is one of the fastest growing states currently in the United States. I think I just read 40 to 90,000 people a year are moving from New York to Florida every day, something like that. It's an unbelievable amount of number of people are relocating here from New York. So yeah, if you will, like I said, give your perspective of what you're seeing in New York, economically, housing, anything, jobs.
Yeah, I came in the United States in the late 90s, and the New York that I used to see when I got here was totally different than New York right now. It was a totally different atmosphere. It felt like more, how do I say this? It felt more grounded in a way because everybody had something that they were doing. Everybody was busy doing something. The economy felt pretty strong, and everything kind of fell apart in stages. The first that I noticed was after 9/11. Everything just kind of started falling apart slowly. Of course, our rights kind of eroded. Of course, we know that. I don't have to get into that. But if we're talking about economics, 2008 was huge because that's when we had that big recession. And the job market was horrible. I mean, people were losing money, people were losing pensions. There was not that many quality jobs available. Even if you got like a bachelor's degree, like you couldn't really get like a decent job. So right there and then, like you could tell like something is different, something changed, right? And just like today, like the amount of homeless people you see on the street is like doubled, and prices are going up for basic items such as eggs and milk, and people wages are stagnant. The wages is not going up. It's not keeping up with inflation. And yeah, it's a struggle. And yeah, like you said, Josh, a lot of New Yorkers are moving out because for multiple reasons. Some of it was related to the bug, the policies around the bug. And it's just like the New York is not what it used to be. It was like a bustling city. Like even New York nightlife is dead. Like you walk into certain clubs or bars, it's like there's two people sitting there, like looking really depressed. It doesn't look like the New York pre 2020. Like it's really different. Yeah.
Is there anything good about New York 2024?
Well, New York was always had certain qualities that people kind of gravitated to. Number one, it's a very like multicultural city because you have pockets of different cultures, and people could immigrate here and feel comfortable because they could live within communities of whatever their background, nationality is, or language background, or ethnic background, whatever the case may be. It's a lot of little pockets of different cultures. Number one, a lot of restaurants, really good restaurants, amazing food. Uh, the fact that they have 24-hour stores, I don't know if like some small towns or smaller cities have this, but there's certain stores that I know if I can drive, I can drive there like at 4 o'clock in the morning and buy groceries. So
Yeah, yeah.
that
After
is,
the bug,
yeah.
after the bug and COVID, like down here in Central Florida, I think Miami and Tampa, everything shut down at like midnight. Like Walmart's used to be 24 hours down here, and after COVID, like basically they close at like 11 o'clock. They're done. I remember going shopping at Walmart like 2 in the morning because I didn't like go in during the day because it was too busy. I went to get what I wanted to get and get out, because my time is valuable. But like I said, during COVID, like they started closing at 11 and that was it. And they never opened it back up. They used to have 24-hour cafes and like Starbucks and stuff like that. And they did away with that. So now we literally have grocery closes at 9, and then like Walmart till 11. And then there's no restaurants open past 10 o'clock. Some like you might have some pizza places open until like 1 in the morning. But I remember that. Like I said, I lived in New York City. I lived in Seattle. And I remember like eating, because I worked night shift, in Seattle, and I would order food at like 2 or 3 in the morning, and like they would deliver it to my business, my job. So I mean, like it was, and always something was always open 24 hours, and that was Seattle. I mean, it was like a mini New York City. And when I was in New York City right before COVID, like exactly what you had mentioned, I saw that. And then after COVID, like it's done. Like there was like everything shut down. Like the whole city goes to sleep at like 11 o'clock.
Yeah, it's dead. It's dead. And just in general, I would say New York City, it's better for like singles because there's like, there's certain job opportunities. There's, certain nightlife. New York City is not the best place to raise a family or to raise kids. There's not that many areas for them to play. It's just not a very public focused city. There's no like playground, not a lot of playgrounds that kids can go play. There's not a lot of public restrooms. It's not very public friendly city. It's like very like certain how do I say this? Certain activity focused, I would say, as opposed to community focused. So yeah, if you have kids, I wouldn't suggest moving to New York City, definitely. Or if you want to raise a family, But if you're a young single person, yeah, there's still some positives to New York City. There's definitely some opportunity, a lot of job opportunities still. Definitely not, like I said, it's been getting progressively worse. I don't know what it was like in the 80s because I was born in the 80s, so I couldn't compare that. But in the 90s, and there was a gradual decline from 2001 after the whole 9/11 thing, and then 2008 there was a big decline, and after the bug, and yeah, it's just the streets are not so well maintained. There's a lot of potholes. It's not very clean. A lot of I heard something. It was kind of like that in the early 80s, like a lot of crime, right? A lot of dirty
Yeah,
streets. It seems to be kind of going backwards in a way to that era.
yeah. In the '70s, before Giuliani took over as mayor, New York City was one of the most dangerous cities in the country, and it had one of the highest homicide rates in the country, and there was crime everywhere. And when Giuliani took over, he started to basically enforce all laws. So he like literally, if you skipped a bus, for metro or like subway, if people would jump over the turnstiles to get in, he'd take a jail for that. He would have the cops write you up. He got really strict, and then the crime came down quite a bit. And then he started doing a lot of job programs and renovations, and seeking foreign investment, or bringing in investors to the New York City. So New York City in the late '80s, '90s was a different New York City than it was in the '70s, mostly because of the economic decline that happened due to the oil crisis, and then so on and so forth.
A little nugget of information. Do you remember the movie Seven with Morgan Freeman and Brad Pitt? I mean, it's classic. And the movie Seven. The movie Seven.
What's in the box? What's in the box?
Yeah, a 1995 movie, because it was written in 1993, and also actually envisioned by the writer in 1987, because the premise was you couldn't walk one block on New York City's main street without witnessing a capital crime being a capital sin being performed. That was the premise of Seven. Imagine in 1987, written in 1993, and taken into movie in 1995. So there you have it.
The ambience of that movie was so gritty and depressing, and it's I think we've actually caught up to it.
So New York in the 80s.
It also feels like Gotham City from the Batman movies. Yeah, you kind of have that sense.
So
the Joker is a really good example. Like the new Joker movie.
You said that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
So, I'm just going to say one thing for context. The video that's on the channel right now, or on the screen, these are the most dangerous ghettos in New York City. So continue, guys. Sorry.
Yeah, you said that. You said that you kind of said that the wages are stagnant, and that things are getting worse, and people are moving out, and it's not what it used to be. But you also said that there's lots of job opportunities. It's not maintained. It's not very clean. There's crime. Things are going backwards. But there's job opportunities. What do you mean by the job opportunities in New York? Like, there's decent wages, which you said are stagnant, or just like?
Well, good question, Adam. So it's basically like everything is in comparison, right? I'm comparing it to what it used to be. Yes, there's still job opportunities. Yes, there's a lot of different sectors in New York City. There's the business sector, there's the public sector. They're very developed. There's a lot of service sector jobs that you might not find in other cities or towns. But I'm comparing it to what it used to be. Yes, there's still opportunities if you're really trying to look for something, if you're putting in the effort. You can probably find some kind of job. You might not find a job that's comparable to your degree or to your skills. You might be in a job that is not related to your studies at all in school. But yeah, there's still opportunities. You can start a small business. You can start a bodega.
And
If you have some money saved up from your parents, or you take out some loans, you can still start a small business. Yes,
and in terms
but
of the opportunities people to come to New York and get a job and build wealth and prosper, what's the cost of living like? Is it
it's going up.
getting-
It's going up. Like I said, the essentials are more expensive. I never saw eggs being like $6 before. It was like like $3. Like it's doubled. Milk has increased. Like the gas. Well, everybody knows about the gas prices went up because we had like $2 gas not that long ago. Now it's like hovering around $4 or $5 a gallon.
So I'm from London, which is the most equivalent in this side of the pond to New York City, and it's got all these same wages are stagnant, multicultural, siloed, various ethnicities being squeezed. I can't say there's any benefits. But the wages are like the average wage in London is £32,000 with many people.
So that's that's roughly like $36,000 or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. And a lot of people are under that, so between $30,000 and $36,000 and it's just unaffordable for lots of people. And to live with people. So you're saying prices going up. My understanding of New York City, I think average wages are like double that, like $60,000.
No, there's no way. There's no way. You can look it up. I don't want to say it wrong. I don't have the numbers in front of me. If I had to guess, it's like 40, maybe 42,000. If I had to make an educated guess. And the problem with New York City is the big issue is the rent. The rents have skyrocketed. The apartments have gotten smaller. You can get for the same amount, you would get a double-sized apartment. Now you can, let's say, what you used to be able to get a 2-bedroom rental, now you can only afford a 1-bedroom. For example, in the same price range. The rents have been going up and skyrocketed. Like I'm hearing people tell me they're paying like $2,000 for like a studio or a small studio or like a little rat infested like shithole, and like it's not the same. Like the rents keep going up. People can't afford living in the city. That's the problem, right? Even if you get a job, like a decent job, you might need to get 2 jobs. Your partner may need to work, right? As before, like you could afford everything in a one wage, on one salary. You can't afford like a lot of decent things on one salary. Not anymore.
Is this a $2,000 apartment in New York City?
That's probably if that's Manhattan, if that's Lower Manhattan, or if that's like Williamsburg, the hipster area. That's probably like 4,000.
Oh.
That's probably $4,000 rental.
Yeah.
Anywhere Midtown, anywhere near Central Park, some parts of Lower Manhattan. That's gonna cost you a lot of money just for the area. If you want to live in a fancy area.
Yeah, I had a friend working in DC, Washington DC. He was living in Georgetown, and he was renting in the basement. This was like 2000. It had been around 2018, and I think he was paying upwards of $3,000 just to rent a basement apartment in Washington DC. And yeah, that's insane. That was 2018. That's when I rent like the small town was like $300 or $400 a month for like a 800 square foot apartment, 1 bedroom.
I'm sorry, Adam. I'm seeing a lot of figures in the chat. I'm trying to figure out the difference. I'm seeing 41,000 because I was kind of close to that figure, so 42.
Yeah, so I just found the first website I found said, and it's a few years old. It may be from 2020. It's from 2022, the article, but this is according to U.S. Census Bureau's 2020 survey. It says that the average individual income in New York City is $107,000. the median household income is $67,000. So we'll take that. Median is better than average, I'd say. You can measure it however you slice the cake. So I think median household income, $67,000. I think that's a good measure. And then it says per capita, which means that every person 16 or older living in the city, the per capita income is $41,625 back in 2020. So it's going to be somewhere between 40, 67, and $100,000 is the average. How you weigh it. Income.
I don't know. I could see some people earning that money. I don't know. I just don't see it like being the average. I don't know why. It seems like a bit high.
When you look at the 107,000 one, that can be. I don't know how that. If you take all the money in New York City by all the employed people, there's going to be lots of people at the top. So let's ignore that, and you go for the median. So if the person who's earning more than 50% of the population and less than 50% of the population, what's he earning? And allegedly, 2 years ago, it was $67,000.
Okay, that seems a little more like a reasonable number, like, more realistic, I would say. Yeah, it's definitely probably a lot on both sides. Like, there's a lot of people who earn much more than that, and there's probably a lot of people who earn much less than that. So that's what I'm thinking. So maybe a lot of people earn millions of dollars, and a lot of people probably earn $30,000 plus, I would say. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm thinking. If that makes sense.
It actually does.
It does.
Because a lot of the entry level jobs, they don't pay that much. I mean, I guess what is the minimum wage now? Like, what is it? I'm blanking on it right now.
In New York City, I think it's 15. I think they're gonna raise it to 20.
So it's about 20, right?
Yeah.
But if you're working as a waiter, they don't have to pay you a minimum wage because you're working on tips. So they can pay you like $4 an hour, really.
So why move to New York City? It seems that people are leaving. It seems that prospects may be better outside of New York City. Do you agree with that?
Well, I don't want to steer people either way. I don't want to tell people don't move, or I don't want to tell people to move. What I'm saying is, make your own calculation. If you need to go and try it and see how it works for you, maybe it'll work out for you. Maybe it'll not gonna work out for another person. I don't want to tell people don't go to New York City. I don't want people to go to New York City. Everybody's different. Everybody's goals are different. If you find a nice job in New York City, then you can probably deal with the negatives. I do every day. I'm okay. Thank God I'm alive. I'm in one piece. I live in a relatively decent, safe neighborhood. And I earn a decent amount of wages, I guess is what I would say. So I made it out okay. Some people may have a different experience. So I don't want to, generalize and say, oh, New York City is amazing. Everyone moved to New York City. The same thing I won't say. Some people like the edginess of New York City. Maybe they want to come and, and test themselves out, see how they can survive in a city like New York City. So everybody's different. I don't want to say either way.
I know I did all right. I was in, I think I got a job like within the first week I was in New York, and I got housing, a job, and everything at the same time. So like literally, the employer provided housing, they provided meals, uniform, and everything. And it was Westchester County, so just outside of New York City, out of the boroughs. And yeah, I made it. Like, but the thing is, I had a degree and I had some, I had education and work ethic. So I don't know if you're trying to go there as like a wage earner, I don't think it's worth it. In my opinion, I think you're going to have a difficult time, and you won't be able to find an apartment unless you have family there, or you have a friend or somebody who's going to help you out. Otherwise, you're going to be on the street. I mean, it's a rough city, man. You know, if you're not used to that type of environment.
Yeah, it's
And
definitely not
also,
for everyone. That's for sure.
you're also consigning yourself to living in apartment blocks, and as you say, like traffic and lack of communal space. It's just you have to really want to live in New York City. Yeah. Okay. With that, I've got to head off now. It's been a really good stream.
I'll excuse myself too. Adam, it's been great having you, and let's just do this sometime soon.
Sure. All right.
And
Yeah,
It's been great, guys.
Yeah, it's good to see you again, fellas.
I'll excuse myself too. It's been great, and I hope to see you again sometime soon. Love you all.
Yeah. Thanks, guys, for joining us on the podcast. Like I said, I hope you learned something. You know, we covered a lot of stuff on the economy and just, you know, personal perspectives of what's going on in the United States and as well as around the world. And don't believe what you hear on the mainstream media, all the hype. It's a lot of it's just hyperboiled, man. A lot of it's fugazi. So that being said, like and subscribe. You know, and you can, if you want to talk to us in the chat, we can go to Telegram and our links there in the channel as well in the description. And if you can, buy me a coffee. But like I said, that being said, thanks for joining us tonight, and you know, until next time.
Thank you for having me, Josh. Good to see you again,
You're
Joe.
welcome. All right,
Take it
guys.
easy, Anthony, man. Take care.